brands. So now maybe we come into the
Mm.
second question of like, how do we actually build those brands? But maybe we can pick up on that
Mm.
later, or maybe you can tackle it through the piñata. I don't know.
Maybe I'll quickly. I mean, the good side about. I mean, I'm very proud of the Pinata, particularly because of the acronym works quite well. But it does take quite a long time to talk through. But I'll just give you a gist of what this is for. The idea is that the clearer a company is about their brand or brand, the more they understand what they want it to be, what they don't want it to be, who's it for, what the kind of associations that they want to build around it, the more
Hmm.
likely they are to build something compelling and then have market activity that's efficient. So I use this as a sort of checklist when I'm talking to brand owners, and sometimes they're really clear about some of the letters of the pinata, but sometimes they're less clear about one or two others. And
Hmm.
interestingly, a lot of brands still don't clearly think about their assets. They don't actually take brand assets as seriously as I think, and a lot of people think marketers should do. You have to be very clear what you want your assets to be, make sure they're distinctive and ownable enough, and then make sure you use them consistently. And in the middle term and the longer term, those brand assets are going to be very valuable to you, more than than a lot of marketers probably realize.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. And I mean, there's one word on here that's
Mm.
been discussed and disgusting and anything in between, and it's the P word, the
The
purpose
purpose.
word.
I
Like,
know.
but I just already I feel like your purpose interpretation is really more of like what I would consider an essence or something, and I think that's where a lot of the issues come from. But do walk us through
Yeah,
your thoughts on it.
we have to talk about. Yeah, exactly. In fact, on some versions, whenever I use the word purpose, I then caveat my definition. But I use purpose to literally mean what's in the dictionary, just like what the thing is for.
Yeah.
And actually, it's kind of what you exist for doing, not a higher order societal purpose, it doesn't necessarily have to be worthy in any way at all. But you have to be clear what it is. And that sounds obvious, but what is the purpose of the thing? If it's a one product or a range, what is the purpose of those things?
Yeah, what's interesting there is like I think I made that mistake as well. Like at a certain point we started talking about the why and the purpose in a way that it almost felt like we needed to make it more. And we even like I've even said like what is your purpose beyond making money? That's always like the follow-up sentence because you want it to be this do good for the world thing,
Yeah,
and that's where I think
I don't think
things got a
that
little
way.
bit cliche.
I don't think that way. I actually think it's what is the purpose that your products do that help you make money. And I know that makes me sound like I don't care about the responsibilities that companies have, big companies have. I do, obviously, I absolutely do, but I don't see that necessarily has to be embedded in every brand within your range. That's something your
Hmm.
company should do. But I think it's perfectly legitimate to have a brand like Snickers that's purpose is to fill you up when you're hungry. There is nothing wrong. I can't see any wrong if you do that well and you produce things in an ethical way. That is a moral obligation, but it's not necessarily about Snickers. It doesn't have to be. It can be that it can be part of it as well. That's fine, but it doesn't have to be, in my opinion. Anyway.
Love that. No, but I mean, this pinata is a very interesting way of looking at it, and you've put customers at like the heart of it for the
Yeah.
people that are listening. There, it's like a star pinata, and there's a yellow center, which is the customers. Like one thing I struggle with is this interesting idea of like audience definition versus the idea of targeting everyone, basically Sharp's
Yeah.
concept of reaching all category buyers. Like, how do you deal with that friction in there?
Yeah. I think so. It's hard to say this because such a big advocate of Byron Sharp and how brands grow. But I think that the idea that all brands should target and aim to build their franchise across all customers isn't correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I've conversations with Joel Rubinson in the States, who has been working on the concept called the movable middle and
Mm-hmm.
validating that concept in packaged goods yeah, categories. And I'm increasingly seeing more evidence that Yes, it is an echo chamber. It does back up everything I've learned over 30 years. But no, there are certain consumers types for any given category who are going to be more responsive to what your brand is and does,
Hmm.
and more responsive, therefore, to your advertising. And therefore, as a business, you will get a better ROI if you make some conscious decisions about targeting a specific sub-segment of all category users. And I'm absolutely certain of that because all marketers have a finite amount of money. And most marketers are operating in a category that's already established, or at least if you are operating in a category that's already well established, the idea that, especially if you're a new brand, that you're best off targeting all category users is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
If you don't have something that's a little bit different, or you're better in some regard, then you will not. The chances of success are tiny unless you have a crazy budget. But that's never going to happen. So I think that's wrong. And I think also from a media point of view, these days, increasingly, you have addressable audiences where you can identify a subgroup of people who are more responsive, because people do have differences in what they prefer. And a category. I mean, how do you look at its worst case? You think about the car category, right?
Yeah.
If you're selling a Range Rover, you are going to be wasting a lot of money if you go for all car buyers. Now, I know, okay, well, that's not the category. Well, yeah, then you can go for luxury car buyers, but then you're already showing that, it depends how you define your category. You could say luxury car buyers who like German things.
And then you're basically just doing segmentation, which is interesting. Like, where does it stop being like the category and being a segment? And I guess
it doesn't matter. The point is, there will be a group of people, and you can find them in a certain way, who are going to be more receptive to what it is that you offer. And if you can either call it a big category and call the other thing segments, or you can say, well, that's not my category, and I'm going to go for this bit. It doesn't make any difference.
No,
Anyway,
it's a very interesting point, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately. Like, as you said, it's sometimes we use different words for different things, but these come from practical experience. And I guess this thing like segmentation is just something marketers in the real world have to do because of resources and because of, as you said, like there's some things happening in the market, and the big data in Sharp's work is really like in aggregate, these things might show up in that way, but it doesn't really help us in a way we want to build brands, right?
Yes, exactly. That Joel Rubinson is much cleverer than me. He puts it in a good way. We're saying that Byron Sharp is talking. It's a descriptive model, but it's being extrapolated into a predictive model.
Yep.
You see what I mean? It's like, no, is it
exactly
how your brand could grow? It's not. It's how the profile of big brands. It's not
how
the same
did they
thing.
grow?
What's the story behind their growth? And I'm thinking about go back. I mean, you think about Dove. It's one of the biggest brands in the world, right now, today. It didn't start like that. It started by having a bit of a niche. It was a medical brand.
Yeah,
it was used in the war, wasn't it, to bandage people. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'll need to look at my details a bit better than this. But the point is, for a long time, it was niche, and then it slowly grew. But it couldn't have come in and said, right, we're a mainstream soap brand.
No, for sure. And it reminds me of like BrewDog, which is a really interesting brand in the sense that they came from this really like tribal kind of very differentiated, but now you see them like putting up big venues in Vegas, and they're going into spirits, and they have all these like, and you can see they're becoming bigger and probably starting to target like almost everyone. And it is they're growing out of their, but they had to start that way, otherwise it wouldn't be interesting.
Exactly, otherwise they wouldn't have got to that point where they could do it. So it's kind of true that if you want to be huge, you will have to at some point, won't you? You will have to attract more bigger audiences, no question.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's fine, and and therefore penetration is the ultimate route to growth. But at any one point in time, the right strategy, given your money, is to, like you say, grow from your core, because that becomes feasible. Also, you have people in the trade who will accept or not accept things as well. So there are lots of practical reasons, not theoretical, why you cannot do it realistically. Come in and try and target everyone. So so it's more the pragmatic things rather than the
Love that. Smart marketing, basically.